doing with 339. Goodness. Doesn't say it right there though. Today's my birthday. I got some bubble gum. These are hard to do. There's an old movie that David Lynch never got to do about a saliva bubble. True story. Meow. Hello, critter. Meow. How you doing, critter? So, what's been going on today? Meow. Oh, really? right. I'm officially 50 years old, and I still haven't made it, and I'm still continuing. So, that's the way it is. It happens. I have to admit, I didn't think it was going to take this long. I do have to be honest about that. Oh well. Never give up. All right, so we're down this way and right over there. So over time, a lot of the bags get put here, where a company like Roadie from Georgia actually picks them up and can drop them at the door if they're not claimed. If they use that app, or Delta Airline uses it. I don't know about American. I think American does it themselves. But anyway, that's what ends up happening.
Everything has to offer. We love our incredible restaurants, our vibrant neighborhoods, our lively arts and cultural scene, and some of the best shopping options in the world. If you just pass it through, come back and spend some time with us. We love
Score, baby.
But you got me fucked up.
So they do have a lot of dogs here at the airport. I can guarantee you this. Every freaking cop here is criminal. I mean, they are corrupt as good. They're probably, a lot of them are probably on stuff. And they've got a lot of video on a lot of them doing illegal stuff, according to the sex trade. Like I said, most cops going to prison. Most cops are. Okay, on these, you want to make sure you push them all the way through here. It takes a little bit of force to do that. And then just kind of push them over here. I found one corrupt cop just down the way. And he's on his way to prison right now. They just arrested him. Big time. FBI's on the case right now. I've already reported it to them. 3 of them. Score. Harvey Keitel says death before dishonor. Death, buddy. Death. all the way. A little quick copyright right there. I can have it on. Whoa, can't copyright me there. Whoa, couldn't copyright me there. Ooh, music copyright there. Nope. Nah, he's a rookie, but the FBI picked him up. He's doing something that's considered, cops don't know they're breaking the law. This is an investigation on police corruption. I know it appears that I'm doing one thing, but in order for me to investigate, I got to, basically approach the criminal cop and let them know. Criminal crop, a crop of cops. Nah, the FBI's back there booking them right now because I work with them. You ever seen The Departed? Remember one of them was an FBI informant? Well, this is the real thing, what you're watching. You're watching a real version of The Departed. I have family that's the chief of police. So if I remember interviewing one of them, it means that they're corrupt. If I see or hear any of them, that means they're corrupt. If they're anywhere in my vicinity, then they're corrupt. It's very easy. It's an easy game. It's a no-brainer. The one thing that a cop does not want more than anything on this planet, doesn't matter if the DFW, Fort Worth, or Dallas, there's one thing a cop doesn't want. A cop does not want to go to prison because they'll kill him. That's right. They'll kill him. They won't hurt him. They'll kill him. Oh, and by the way, anybody can be an informant. He leaves his post, he loses his career. I leave my post, no big deal. I'm an actor anyway. I'll bounce back just fine. All actors do. This way and over that way. Doesn't that look like kind of like a zombie film? I don't know, every time you see empty escalators, I'm always thinking like zombie film. I don't know why. Maybe it's my imagination. And then like someone running down a long hallway. Zombie film, right? All right, so this is C12 right here, and that's a parking garage right there. So that should be good right there. It's only one parking garage up. So you'll see C10, I'm looking at, because I'm studying, analyzing parts of the actual airport. And if you look right here, there should be a turn in right here. What you'll do is spin around, the center one is right here. It's very, very complex, as you have to study these things. That's why I go back and I look at them when I edit. I go back and I find out exactly how their layout is right here. And I think this one is pretty much the same one, the same parking garage. It'd just be at the very end, so I may have lucked out on this one. Yep, looks like it did. Okay, so the very edge of that parking garage would work. I was a track runner in college, but I just did it on my own time. All right, don't do this, kids. Whatever you do, don't go the wrong way.
A wise business deal, like green clients of the permanent energy
around this way here. So time is the essence. I forgot this is not a one-way. There we go. Now we're rolling. Yeah, so what you want to do is look for one-ways, because one-way is actually, another one was like two-way. This is actually one-way. And I'm turning around this way. Right about, wrong way. So this is where it gets confusing. I want to show you this because this will get you lost. The airport is designed to actually, it's almost like a maze. That's why I'm analyzing this right here. So going wide is the way that you do it to stay on the same level. This is just basically to move the vehicle around. But we're trying to get on from one side to another side, which I didn't really have to do this. I'm just trying to be more convenient. So I probably shouldn't have, but actually I lucked out right here. So I did luck out on this. I'm actually gonna go about, actually right here. This would be perfect right here. It's a little bit closer, maybe like 100 yards closer. So very, very good. Okay. Well, it's hard to beat people like Mark Zuckerberg and other people that are tycoons like the big tech. But if we work together and we keep calm and steady, we'll have to see what happens. It's not like I'm trying to beat those types. Like the big tech is hard. A lot of people are in the big tech thing. But after all, you know, the government has put them on trial. So the worst thing that you can do to somebody is simply nothing at all. You know, that's the worst. That's why I try to tell Angel abandonment, and she knows it is the cruelest thing that you can do. It's just nothing at all. And that's what happened to Jesus when he was on the cross. He was abandoned. His Father abandoned him on the cross. And he said, "Why, Father, why have you forsaken me?" And he did that for us so it had never happened to us. Because with Jesus, we can never be abandoned. Whether you are a good person or a criminal, because he died the criminal death, okay? So you can still turn your life over to Jesus Christ. You don't have to handcuff people. You don't have to imprison people. And that goes for cop and criminal, okay? You can turn your life over to Jesus Christ and leave people alone and let them live. It is true, you can. Anybody can turn their life over to Jesus Christ. Just like that. Just like that. Right, kitty? I'll never be at peace with that in the world. It'll never happen. None of us really will. The worst thing a wife can do to a husband is what my mom did to my dad and what my dad wanted my wife to do to me. And he gets his way. He gets his way now. But there'll be a time when he doesn't. But he won't know about it. Ooh, look at that little bird. 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 All right, so right here, all the way through here, and over this way. Yeah, it's starting to get there. Yeah, looks like we got a guy coming out of Miami and went on a fishing trip, doing some deep sea fishing, and came through and they left his luggage at another terminal. So that happens. I know how things are. So it's kind of a difficult one, you know, where didn't come through the right terminal, so they had to go to one terminal to another. And well, we were able to find it at the other terminal. And I think this is Prosper, Texas. They had a really nice sunset. Couldn't capture it because I don't have a magnifying lens. I don't have all the technology that I'll end up with hopefully one day. It depends on if God blesses me with that. But you can get a telescopic lens and really bring that sun up. And some of them you can even see like sunspots and things like that. And like vampire movies, which I would like to end up doing one day. I'm working on a werewolf movie for October, coming up this October. I did a lot of the writing of the screenplay of Grace, the werewolf movie. I did a lot of that writing last year leading up to October. So I wait for the seasons to change for certain stories because it affects my mood. And ideas and dialogue come up concerning the werewolf during October. And a lot of people talk about the harvest moon and things like that. But in this case, we're talking about a sun, as in a solar sun. And I thought because of the werewolf, and in my story, and my version of the werewolf, the cat is the keeper of the curse. So the cat is actually the one that has the curse, which is known as lycanthropy. But really what it is it's just a curse that can also transfer to the vampire as well. Because this deals with like this old Egyptian curse that makes this person, makes Rainy Love a werewolf. They think it's Grace Lipon or Lippin. This is St. Martin, Catholic, right there. Now, in the sequel of Grace, which would be Grace Part 2, there will be vampires in it. So I'm taking like the Stephanie Meyer route because I know now she's an interesting lady. She had Brigham Young training, so she was out in Utah. She got married at a young age, like in her early 20s, and her husband, who was an auditor, I believe took off to take care of the children full time, and she just started writing a novel. Came out to be Twilight, which was about vampires and werewolves. About werewolves too. And mine eventually will also be about vampires. And I've always wanted to write a vampire movie ever since I was young. So I'm going to be able to do that. And that won't be until the next couple of years. I'm not going to get on to Grace Part 2 yet. I'm still working on Grace Part 1. It could be a series. But it's only in a feature film state right now as we speak. So it's feature film state right now. But I do have to brush up mostly on the fight sequence towards the end, which is going to be difficult. And I'm going to be hopefully getting hold of Conan the Barbarian, written by John Milius. That's a great script. It's a masterpiece. Just so I can look at some of his fight sequences on how he handled some of the writing on the fight sequence. I want to. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get hold of the script. Some of these scripts are public domain. Like, for example, Paul Schrader's Taxi Driver is public domain. You can access it online. And I've had different versions of it. Or you used to could. I don't know if you still can, but... And I've actually purchased a copy, and I sold it during my baptism. But yeah, I did not know Stephanie Meyer was a Mormon, which is I thought it's kind of cool. I've acted with some Mormons and stuff like that. They're real big in the theater. Mormons are. You run across them if you're in the theater acting. You run across a Mormon. But she wrote the Twilight series, yeah. But anyway, the one I'm writing is called Grace, and I am going to be finalizing it coming up probably by this October. And it's only werewolf, so it's only about the werewolf. Now, I'm kind of glad that I'm doing the werewolf one because the oldest story that's been printed on tablets is the werewolf story. It's the oldest one. It goes all the way back to Gilgamesh, which is far before the Bible. And it was actually a werewolf. It kind of represented a werewolf story. Gilgamesh did. Pretty cool. So I'm going to take my time with Grace. And I don't know for sure if I'm going to start the reading in October. I may not have time to do the complete reading of Grace, the werewolf movie, and only in October. So it may be late August coming up. And what I'm deciding to do is probably a new thing that many writers do, but they don't do it necessarily on social media. And I got it from Paul Auster. Oh, and also Paul Schrader. Paul Schrader, who wrote Taxi Driver, said, you want to talk as much as you can about your screenplay. Talk to your friends about it, talk to God, talk about it in your dreams, talk to the wall, talk to your cat, talk to your best friend. Tell people about your story so you can figure out and separate the BS, the wheat from the chaff, or chaff, or chaff, the wheat from the chaff. So you can separate the wheat from the weeds. And you want to find out what works. So what we're going to do probably late August is I'm going to take a page of Grace. And I'm going to look at that page. And I'm going to look through it. And I'm going to go, okay. And then I'm going to go to the next page. And I'm going to look through it. And I'm going to kind of look at it and what can work. And then I'm going to go to the next page and do the same thing. And then I'm going to do the next page. Then I'm going to turn the camera on and I'm going to begin reading it. So I can hear what it sounds like. Description, dialogue, script to screen. That's what Matthew McConaughey teaches in UT Austin. Now, he doesn't teach this technique. I'm not speaking on behalf of him. But he does teach script to screen. But I don't know how he does it because I never took his class. But regardless of this, I will be talking about each one of my pages in Grace. Now, eventually we will get to the fighting sequence. So, probably silently throughout while I'm doing it, I'll go back and touch up the fighting sequence. So by the time we get to the fighting sequence, I won't let you down, and you'll be able to hear and listen to me read and speak on the behalf of the characters, in the fighting sequence, as well as the rest of the whole script. I think it's like 100 and something pages. I don't know how many. I don't know if it's over 150 pages or whatever. I don't know. But it's a unique script. So we'll go through page by page, and I'll read it, and then you'll get to hear the sound, and you'll be able to hear and see the words that are in the script. And then that'll be a great way to pitch the script and to finalize it. Now, here's what you can do as a viewer and a fan of the Cole Spivey channel. That's what Natalie Travels, known as Daphne, that works with Adam the Woo. That's what she calls it. She calls it the Cole Spivey channel. I kind of like the name, and I thought about maybe changing it to the Cole Spivey channel. But right now it's just Cole Spivey. But anyway, regardless, when you listen to the script of Grace, the werewolf movie that I wrote under my name, then you can say, well, I like this idea, or I like that idea. And many directors and many screenplay writers have done this. One guy named Stanley Kubrick, who wrote The Shining, he did this when he did Full Metal Jacket. He would go to the actors and ask them, what do you think about this? How do you think the movie should end? And he would get everybody's opinion. So I want you to talk about the werewolf movie. Allow me to read it, and this will be in late August going into October. Well, it'll be late August going through September, then October. But it'll probably be through late August, September, and then to Halloween. Then when it's finished and we're all polished up and we're good to go, I'm going to send it to Grim Life Collective, and they know everything about Indiegogo, the analytics and everything. So they'll definitely be able to give me some advice about Indiegogo, and they already have in one of their vlogs. Meaning they talk to everyone about Indiegogo. I don't understand the analytics of Indiegogo, so I was not able to launch a campaign. But if you know anything about Indiegogo, you can certainly tell me how to launch a campaign. There's something to do with Google Analytics that they need to launch the campaign, or at least I did. I could try doing it again. And I even went on YouTube and didn't find much information about how to launch an Indiegogo. Anyway, but regardless, you can get money through Indiegogo to do a movie. That's what Grim Life Collective has done. And that's why they'll receive my script, because they know everything about producing a horror film. Now, the sequel to Grace 2 will be werewolves and vampires. Okay, we'll get to this at the end of August, throughout September, and then through October until the very end. We'll be reading my script, just like I did with, if you notice, I've done this and I haven't finished the very end of it, but it's called Skinny Pete and Friends Teleplay. It's a sequel to Better Call Saul that I wrote. I did it. I'll be doing it in a very similar fashion. It'll be page by page. Really what it'll be is scene by scene. So it'll be 10 pages here, and then another 10 pages, and then I've already written it, so all I have to do is brush it up. So this will be way easier. We're in Little Elm. All right, just to make you know, Stanley Kubrick was not the writer of the novel The Shining, but the version that you see that's set in the Overlook, which originally was the Stanley. They didn't use the Stanley. They went out to like Yosemite, whatever, and it was in that weird Wanamana, whatever, hotel. Okay, that was written by Stanley Kubrick, but it was based upon the novel by Stephen King. Everybody knows that. I just say that kind of stuff because people are like, no, everybody knows The Shining was written by Stephen King. Well, yeah, I know, but Stanley Kubrick did the version with Jack Nicholson and all that stuff. That was Stanley Kubrick's take on The Shining, is all I was saying. That he wrote that. That was a Stanley Kubrick thing, even though Stephen King did write the novel. But it's not the same. What Stanley Kubrick did was not the same as what Stephen King did later on with the television series. And everybody has their opinions, but I'm very obsessed with The Shining. And also one of my dreams, you know, as a director, and this could be an abandoned project or it could be a real project, is to do a shot-for-shot version of Stanley Kubrick's Shining. I mean, shot for shot, even making the actors look and behave very similar to Jack Nicholson and Shelley Duvall and the young boy. Meaning, trying to relive the entire movie using salt on the floor like they did, shooting it out in the UK at their studios, reproducing The Shining exactly, but not necessarily using Jack Nicholson, because that's the one thing we can't do. We can't go back and make them young again. So we'd have to find actors to play versions of them. And it's okay to use the personalities of the actors. Like I thought I would want to use like Joaquin Phoenix and Ella Fanning for the role of Jack Torrance and Wendy. And then find a boy that looks similar. I even considered maybe Ian McGregor because he's already done something, but then again, that may not work because he's already tied up in Dr. Sleep. You know, that he's already known to be in Dr. Sleep. So I got the idea from one of my passengers about using Joaquin Phoenix, because for one thing, he would have the charm. He would be able to bring the charm. Jack Nicholson, the reason why Jack Torrance works is because it has to have a certain charm or it won't work. That character will not work if the charm is not there. I'm talking about in cinema. That's what made that movie great, was Jack Nicholson. That's what made it great. And of course, Shelley Duvall's reaction to that type of charm, okay? Because he brought charm to the role. Now, in the television series, that charm was not there. I didn't work. Stephen King liked it. I didn't like it. I did not like the television series. I did not. That was the one that was true to the book. I didn't think it was. I don't think it was in the same ballpark as the original Shining. We would use the original soundtrack for The Shining that Stanley Kubrick brought in. We would go back and use pieces of the hotel that he did, and possibly film in that hotel or get another set that looks exactly like it. We would reproduce The Shining in modern day. Okay? That's all we'd be trying to do. It'd be like a trick. It'd be like an illusion. It'd be like a magic trick. Now, we're not going to take Jack Nicholson's face and make it, you know, but we would probably go to Jack Nicholson and talk to him about what went on. You know, the amount of takes, what they did, what did they do to bring about, to raise that type of presence in the movie, if you've seen it before. I got to go back and look at also the black actor's name and everything and study that too, because I was maybe offering that to Samuel L. Jackson, because I've been in the same room with him and he does have great charm. Samuel L. would probably be my first choice, and then of course Morgan Freeman, but I think Morgan Freeman may be a little too old, but Samuel L. may be perfect. I think he'd be perfect for that role of the caretaker that gets it with the axe. Joaquin would be my first choice, of course, if he was accepted. And then I think Ella Fanning would have a great shot, although everybody is getting kind of a little bit older, you know, not like completely older, but like everybody, a lot of these projects I have are hard to come across. The reason why they're hard to come across is kind of a simple kind of thing. And it's mostly because ages change, and we want to kind of fit the same age as what was going on with Nicholson and Shelley Duvall at the time. So when I'm thinking of maybe like out of its place, it could be all these different actors. You know, like, oh, well, these actors will work better, blah, blah. So I'm not saying for sure this is a go. This is just what I was taught to do in school. You know, I was taught to always picture, you know, what actor would you use so you can go forward with the project. Now, I do. Oh dear, I can't talk anymore about it right now. Just give me a second. I got a phone call. I was telling Linda about Glengarry Glen Ross, where these people, you know, are forced to. Well, they were commission salesmen that were selling real estate out of Florida that was a swamp. You know, making people buy the swamp. You know, they had to sell the Glengarry Glen Ross leads. You know, or that was their job, and it was a nightmare. And the oldest one, you know, who was played by Jack Lemmon, was the one that was threatened the most, you know, because he was old. And it's sad that, you know, David Mamet's a genius. You know, he wrote this play about salesmen. But it's sad what Jack Lemmon had to go through, because he had been doing it his whole life, been this commission salesman, and he, you know, he was the old guy, you know, that they were trying to find purpose in it, and in the end you see how it ends. You know, he has to face the news because he steals the let's see, Glengarry Glen Ross. I guess the Glen Ross leads. He steals the good leads. He breaks in the office and steals the good leads so he can be the top salesman. So the young Italian guy, Al Pacino, who was their top sales guy, wouldn't win. You know, which I don't know if Pacino cared really. Oh well, Pacino is the actor. I'm talking about I have to go look at the characters' names. Pacino probably cared, but the salesman didn't. You know, the character he was playing, you know, this was just a game to him, you know. But to the Jack Lemmon character, it was life or death, you know, in his eyes, you know, or he wouldn't have gone to that extreme and broke into the office. But Alec Baldwin's character comes in and says, what's first place? Cadillac. Second, these steak knives. Third, your job. And he meant it. Put that coffee down. Coffee is for closers. You know, that kind of thing. And guys are like, whoa, you know, what's going on? This is my job. You know, what am I going to do? You know, they'd have to find another company, you know. But with Lemon's character, he was in a bad situation. It's a great movie. Glengarry Glen Ross. It should be probably on my top 20 for sure. But it's a play, though. That's the thing. It was originally a play. They still do this in playhouses all over the place. It's a respectful letter to the salesman. But it's also, what Glengarry Glen Ross is kind of an homage to Death of a Salesman, is really what I would think. You know, if I talked to David Mamet, if I got to, you know, he wrote a great acting book called Truth or False. But I would say to David Mamet, I'd say that was an homage to Arthur Miller's Death of a Salesman, wasn't it? You know, he'd probably say, it probably kind of was, you know. because the characters were all led in these crazy directions, you know, where they all had it hard, you know. But Pacino's character made it look easy, and it wasn't, you know. But he was the hot-headed salesman. They all were, you know. I think 2 of them were in Breaking in the Office, though. If you look at it, it was Ed Harris's character, and it was Ed Harris who played the role of this other salesman. And Jack Lemmon, they teamed up on it, I think, to get the Glenn Ross leads. You got to see the movie, but it's also a play. Put that coffee down. Coffee is for closers. A.D.W.C. Always be closing. What's first place? Why this Cadillac? Second, these steak knives. And third, your job. I mean, if they didn't get second place, they lost their job. That was like half the office. It was horrible. It's like a horrible thing to tell a group of salesmen. But, you know, the other guys, I would say, you know, in real life, you know, like if you said, you know, what should they really do? Because they talk about these things in plays. You know, I think the Jack Lemmon character should have just left, sold vacuum cleaners, or, you know, didn't take it so serious. You know, they sucked him into it. And then, of course, you know, Ed Harris should have just not come up with the idea to steal, you know, because he was the thief of the group. But, you know, those things happen. It comes out of, like, fear and nervous energy and all this weird stuff. It's a fear-based thing. Life is, you know. You don't really know, like, why characters do certain things. Like in Glenn Ross, you know, you don't know why they do that. But David Mamet could probably explain it in an essay. But I think fear was behind it. You know, maybe being a commission salesman isn't for everybody, you know. And then some people can do it their whole life, really, you know, maybe, you know. What do you think would have happened, though? They would have said, look, you know, this is, you know, you broke into this office, you know, you stole these leads, you know, this is, you know, the press and charges. And, of course, another great actor that's in it is a guy named Kevin Spacey, who actually, you know, Kevin Spacey got into some trouble. I don't know the details of it, but he did get in some trouble. But Kevin Spacey had a line in it where he kind of explains it to Jack Lemmon, you know. I don't like you. Go to lunch. Go to lunch. Would you go to lunch? Go to lunch. You know, but he was also trying to explain, you know, I don't like you. That was his answer, you know. He was mean. He was the manager of the office. He's the one that gets the old guy in trouble. And plus, it was he did not have those securely. He should have took those leads home with him, which I think he mentioned that he did. Because they talk about a check that was supposed to get to the bank, to the lead salesman they messed up on, because the guy comes back begging, like, don't cash this check. My wife doesn't want the property. You know, would you not do this, you know? And he's, you know, Al Pacino's character's flipping out. It's great. It's a great movie. It's a great movie. Anyway, they really sold it. Like, they sold that movie great. I should own that movie. I should buy it. The play's even better. It's something that I'd try to reproduce if I opened my own theater. I definitely would do Glenn Ross. I probably would play a character in it. I'd probably play the Alec Baldwin character. I've been compared to Alec Baldwin. A friend of mine compared me. He said, hey, Cole, you know, you're probably like the new Alec Baldwin. I was like, hey, yeah, it's pretty cool, you know. He went to NYU. I went to the New School University. I'm from the South. Alec Baldwin's from the North, you know. Two different stuff, you know. Alec Baldwin, he loves Westerns and playing with guns. I do invisible gun like that because I studied mime. Sorry about that.